With the new century, we celebrate a new millennium. In the next 15 years, the Earth's population will become more crowded and personal space will be at a premium. Technology will make things go better and faster, but will also be more challenging. By the year 2015, lifestyles will change dramatically. Leisure time will take on a new meaning, and personal freedoms will take on new dimensions. By the year 2015, outer space will once again become a new frontier. And anybody with a basic home computer will easily be able to produce video productions. The videographers who survive this technological revolution will be a unique breed. They'll be the ones who know it's not the camera, but the person behind it that counts.
Hi, my name is John Cooksey and I want to welcome you to Advanced Broadcast Camera Techniques Volume 2. This tape is different than Volume 1 in that we're going to be going over concepts more than we are specific shots and camera techniques. These concepts are going to take a little more practice. Now this tape also already takes for granted the fact that you've mastered everything in Volume 1 and we build on that in Volume 2. I want you to think of Advanced Camera Technique Volume 1 sort of like mathematics. You learn basic math, and Volume 2 is more geometry and algebra. You don't use geometry and algebra as much in everyday life, but it's important that you know them as a mathematician. Also, when you got into geometry and algebra as a student, mathematics seems so much easier, and the same is with the concepts on Volume 2. So without further ado, let's get on to our shots.
Great camera people love to use hair light because it can really define a subject. As a matter of fact, without hair light, as you see here, the subject can look just ordinary. Adding hair light plus a filter can really add a nice effect. This is a soft light filter and a hair light in the back. Now, hair light doesn't have to be expensive. For this particular shot, we use a $50 automotive quartz halogen spotlight. They're rechargeable. They're about $50. You can get them at an auto store or video accessory store. You can see before and after how effective this can be. All it requires is an additional camera person, or in this particular case, this spotlight will screw onto a tripod. Make sure you experiment with your backlighting. The more experimenting you do, the better the effects that you can get and the better cameraman you'll be. You might have seen fancy commercials or high-budget movies where they have a car zooming down the road just like this. The great thing is you can get this kind of effect without having to strap your expensive camcorder onto the front of the car, and we're going to show you how to do it right now. You want to shoot out of the back of a sport utility vehicle or station wagon using a wide-angle lens and putting down some foam to buffer your camera. This is going to give you a smooth kind of look. The next thing you want to do is try to go on a road that doesn't have much traffic, preferably no traffic at all. Now here's where the secret comes in. The next thing you want to do is reverse the footage using a non-linear edit system. In this case, we used a Casablanca. You can use Adobe Premiere or any software program, and voila, you get some backwards footage. But this isn't good enough. You got to speed it up next to have it really impressive. Again, we use the non-linear edit system to speed it up, and this is the look you get. Now, ideally, you want to do this kind of footage on rainy or overcast days. You'll get a great look, and most importantly, you don't have to worry about endangering your camera by putting it on the hood.
I love gimmicks and gadgets in video. There are so many things that you can do on the cheap, and if I can figure out a way to do an XYZ shot, more inexpensively, then it's so much the better. An example of this is the wheelchair or big wheelbarrow or little red wagon used by a lot of videographers to get a nice dolly shot. Go a wide angle on the front and you move through. And there's a lot of purists out there that say, well, that just doesn't look as good as setting up a real dolly. Yeah, but it captures people's attention and it's different. And the zoom lens, of course, is not a replacement for moving a camera in different positions. Some videographers think it is. Well, just to remind yourself, zoom in on an object in a room and take that same thing and go forward with a dolly on the bottom of your tripod or a wheelchair holding the camera and see the different kind of image that you get.
My challenge to you is the next time you go out interviewing somebody, take it away from the normal, boring, straight-on shot. There are many different angles you can get to be creative. 45-degree angle is the most common. We like to try the 45-45 angle, which moves 45 to the side and 45 down. Not only is this good, it allows you to get things in the background that also tell a story, in this case, the boat. Here's another alternative angle using the interviewer in the shot at the same time. And alternative angle number 4 has, of course, the interviewer's just side angle. If you can tell the story and get these different angles, you'll be doing good and you'll be creative. Sometimes we even like to put the camera on the ground and get these as cutaways, and it just makes for a much more interesting videotape. Practice these when you're not on the job and you're going to be a lot better. Shooting in rain, either artificial or real, can give you some fabulous effects if you know how to do it properly. Just zoom in from a distance with a tripod to compress the rain, or shoot with a little bit of backlighting to enhance, or a combination of both. Here we haven't done either. It's raining a little bit, but you can't see because we're not zoomed in from afar or the rain isn't backlit. Here's the effect where there's some backlighting and we did it in slow motion. Speeding it up doesn't look quite as effective. And we also use the automotive spotlight we talked about earlier to highlight the faces. When you put it all together, it looks like this. Good to have props for your subjects to work with, because the rain and the splashing can really add to the effect, especially in slow motion. At this time, I'd like to show you behind the scenes of how this was done. And it actually had started raining earlier in the day, but then it stopped. So in order to get the shot, we decided to do it an artificial way, which is totally acceptable. You see the spotlight I'm holding on the people, and then I grab the camera. And there's Doug with our sprayer. There's a couple orange lights there we ended up not using. We ended up using the automotive spot. And there's Nick far away, compressing the image by zooming in from a distance. This can be really effective, and feel free to have fun with it.
Today we're going to try a real simple project that'll help your lighting out a bit. If you're wanting to add drama to either your still subjects or possibly to your motion picture work or video work, this is going to be a simple way to make a cucoloris or a cookie cutter for your lighting direction control out of a piece of cardboard, a magic marker, and a utility knife. First, establish what you want your pattern to look like. For the purpose of this demonstration, we're going to use just 3 simple slots. With the magic marker, mark a simple slots, something like this. May take a couple of times through the cardboard, but cut each one out. Okay, now we've got to position our light. This happens to be a small NRG spotlight unit, hitting our cookie cutter or cucaloris, which we've attached to a boom with either clips or tape, gaffer's tape, whatever you might have handy to fit your particular project. Because you can see we're casting shadows in a dramatic way over this particular area. Picture your studies of film noir or situations like in the 1950s in black and white movies, and you can see where this would add effect the way you would like for it to be done. This is simple. It takes less than 5 minutes for you to make. You can get complex with the openings that you cut in the cardboard, and you don't necessarily have to use cardboard. If you find a shape that you're going to use more than one time, you can cut out of plywood or anything that fits your particular creative needs. So just take a hint. It doesn't have to be complex. It doesn't have to be costly. Use your imagination and your initiative, and you can come up with some great visual effects.
I know this sounds obvious, but get yourself a big ladder and have it around when you need that expensive crane shot. In Robert Rodriguez's El Mariachi, he just uses a high ladder, and people used to say to him, man, it looks like you used a crane shot. And how did you rent the crane? Of course, you can go out to these rented centers and get these cable TV type trucks with the big thing that the telephone companies use, or you can know somebody at a cable company, but you know, just having a big inexpensive ladder can do the trick and give the illusion of a real high angle that other videographers wouldn't get.
You'd be surprised how many people really think you're using a crane when you're actually just using a ladder and doing some movement by your hand. This is the stuff that Nick has done right here, and he uses a wide angle on the front, which can make it look even easier. Did you notice we have some foreground framing using the side of the building? Anytime you can get some foreground into your crane shot, it'll exaggerate the movement with a combination of the wide angle lens. Nick is not using a pull-out viewfinder or a 5-inch monitor, but if you're a beginner, that's a good thing to use because it'll make your job even easier. It helps to organize your talent to get them in the right place, so as you pull down, they're in the right place, right where you need them. Don't forget to bring somebody with you to hold the ladder and practice these shots a lot, and you'd be surprised how many people you can fool into thinking you had a crane when you didn't. If you're doing videotaping against a window, don't feel you need to have the window tinted or the light tinted to get perfect white balance. Oftentimes a little creativity will do the trick. Here it is with the background lit and nothing on the foreground. We're going to use a soft light and we're going to white balance to the outdoor setting, and it's a little bit red. The problem with this is if you go to shoot and white balance the indoor settings, you might get a little bit of blue. But you're going to experiment with your digital cameras. They're very tolerant. And what we find is a mixed white balance using the automatic setting. Experiment around. You don't even have to worry about filters and stuff, and you can get something that's great and looks fantastic on camera.
A lot of times you have to interview 4 or 5 people and they're sort of straight in a line, and to do this and just have them pass a mic or go from left to the right is okay, but sometimes it's just 1 or 2 dimensional. You want to make this 3-dimensional. There are so many different ways that you can do it to make it more interesting, such as bringing one up at a time with a static tripod shot, cutting to them, or just positioning the people in a way that looks comfortable, but at the same time, you really pose them. And a lot of people, oh, I don't like to pose people, I like to make it natural. Well, keep in mind that people are watching television for all the time, and you're doing something for a living that has to compete with this. If you watch shots on television and they have people in the front seat of the car and then they have 2 or 3 people in the back seat of the car, isn't it amazing that you could just always see, I saw it on that 70s show the other day, the people in the back seat are always there. They're not blocked. You can always see them. And you just take for granted that they're sitting like that. But if you were to freeze the frame and look at them, you'd say, well, wait a second. There's 2 people crumped over here on one side and 1 person over there. That's not a natural way to sit in the back seat. But you do what you need to do, artistic license, we call it in business, to make it look visually appealing.
Award-winning videographer Joe Correa has many talents. One of those is videotaping nature shots. Let's see what he has to say on the subject.
Number one tip, find a section of time in which you are not going to be rushed. Prepare yourself for the time, allocate the time, and clear everything else. Don't go into that space with a conceived idea of what you got in mind. On the contrary, shut off the camera, forget the camera. See what the nature is saying. If you use the camera, you are already creating what is called, or I call, tunnel vision, which, for example, you take a camera and you put a lens in the setup and give a person to shoot, they automatically take that and try to fit whatever they see into what you gave them. They don't think in terms of maybe changing the lens, changing a setup, changing something. They tend to accept that media as the vehicle through which you operate, and that's tunnel vision already. Get rid of that. We are already a tunnel vision process because we're translating nature as it is through our senses, and that's already enough. So what you want to do is you want to have feelings. You want to bring all that you are as a human being. Look up close to a flower. Find something that it feels good. Now you got a feeling as the leading element to your image. Now you turn on the camera. Now the camera is a tool, and you are in charge. So you start playing with the depth of field, with the focus, with the angle, so that the image inside of the viewfinder begins to adjust to the feeling that you already had. That way, what comes out is an emotional reflection of you, not a technical, perfect image of what's out there.